tough to get up on a Saturday after a week of work dealing with the kids. I know it's summer. They probably been eating up everything out your refrigerator and your pantries all week, and you looking for a break. And guess what? You don't get a break when it comes to the kids. They're going to wear you out, especially on the weekend. So you got to go and get on up, cook some breakfast this morning, and turn on the Jaguar Journal and listen to Perry White as I talk to you about some sports and all type of things this morning. I want to say thank you to my man Grant. He's in joining us this morning on the board. My man Mike is out this week, so Grant is going to take it over. So let's see how Grant does today. All right. We had Casey about 2 weeks ago. Casey did pretty good. So, Grant, you on the clock today. All right. You on the clock today. So, got anything you want to say to the people out there?
Well, I was just going to say I'm going to do my best. I think I can match Casey, but who knows? Mike's the GOAT. Mike's used to this, so We'll see if I can live up to him. You know.
Well, I appreciate you this morning, and everybody out there listening, especially if you're not subscribed already, go to the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel. People start to get in there. Probably you'll start to see about 7:15, 7:30. The activity starts to pick up by 8 o'clock. The whole chat is going back and forth with all type of comments and discussions. And I'm going to get you rolling today. Today's show, I'm going to get my man Carlton Jones, who is the president of the Southern University Alumni Federation, national president of Southern University Alumni Federation. He's going to come on at 7:30 and talk to us about the Southern University Summit going to take place this month down in New Orleans. Try to get you guys signed up and be a part of what's going on at Southern. I know I see on social media all the time, everybody's complaining about this and that, and we need to do this and we need to do that. Well, these type of events are the type of events where you're able to sit down with those leaders of Southern and the people that are part of the think tanks in order to put out what you think should be best for the institution, the system as a whole, moving forward. So we have Carlton come on. He'll give you some information. I'm going to talk to you about the NBA here after the break. Of course, it's the NBA Finals. If you've been paying attention, it has been the Miami Heat, the Denver Nuggets, and it's going about what I think it should be going. Denver Nuggets just look like they are too much right now for a smaller Miami Heat team, but we'll definitely get more into that. I'm going to talk to you about Pete Richardson today. Of course, if you don't know who he is, I don't know what rock you've been under, but if you don't know who he is, I teach you about who he is today. Pete Richardson, of course, the legendary head football coach over at Southern University for years. His success pretty much set the standard after so many years of, let's just say, dark times in Southern University football after A.W. Mumford. But Pete Richardson today being inducted into the Black College Football Hall of Fame out in Atlanta, Georgia. So congratulations to him. And I'll go through the accolades and everything today in terms of Pete Richardson and what he's done and contribute to not only football, not only to Louisiana, but most importantly, Southern University and restoring just that pride, that excitement when it comes to the game of football for Southern University. And then I got something that I think really going to get the chat going and maybe get you guys to call in as well. I'm going to go through what I saw, an article on HBCU Sports talking about the number 1 through 12 head coaches in the SWAC. It's a ranking from 12 all the way to 1. We'll go through that ranking and break it down, talk about each coach. And as we talk about those coaches, then you can call in or interact with us on the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel and say what your top 12 is in terms of 12 through 1 from the bottom to the top of ranking. Who's the number 1 SWAC coach to you this year? That's going to be a good one. Number 1 SWAC coach, and I have my opinion on who I think it is, and we'll go through that. So that's pretty much today's show. I got to tell you guys, I had a dream last night, and in this dream, I guess I'll talk to you about this as we get ready to go up to a break. But as this dream that I had, it was a dream that it brought me back to a time in life, and I just thought I should share this morning because it made me, in this dream, go back and realize how simple things were when I was a kid. Not only how simple things were, but the memories. And, you know, when I was younger, I was so quick to want to be grown. I was just ready to be older. I can't wait to be an adult. Now, in that dream, I went back, and it made me slow down and respect and remember things of the past. And for a lot of people, if you ever been in a small town, like most of us have families that originated from some small town somewhere. My family originated from a small town in southeast Arkansas, just about 30 minutes north of Louisiana and just about 15 minutes west of Mississippi, and they nestled just in the little corner pocket of Arkansas called Lake Village, Arkansas. Lake Village sits on a lake called Lake Chico. It's the world's largest oxbow lake. Used to be a former main channel of the Mississippi River. The river changed course and left this oxbow lake behind, and it's the world's largest oxbow lake. And my family originated in this area. Lake Village, Arkansas. My grandmother and all her brothers and sisters, once they got older, they said, you know what, forget this small town country living. There's no life in this. You can't really raise a family down here. There's not jobs. So they began to move up north. My grandmother and most of her brothers and sisters went to Chicago. So that's where, when people ask, so how do you from Chicago? That's my Chicago roots. They went to Chicago, Cleveland, St. Louis, Kansas City, and Vegas. This is where all my grandmother's brothers and sisters spread out to, and of course, Little Rock, Arkansas as well. And this place reminds me, back in the day, I always heard all the stories, just like many small towns, how thriving it was, how together it was. You know, everybody knew everybody. If you did something down the street, whoever family saw you do something gonna probably get on to you, and then you're gonna get it back when you get to the house. It was a community. And I remember that being a kid, and for some reason last night I had a dream, and it took me back to those days of being a kid, walking up and down the streets of small town Lake Village, because during the summers, just like this is now, all my cousins from everywhere, they would send us back to Lake Village to the family that we had down there and literally just drop us off for the summers. And, you know, for the first week, I would cry, I miss my mom, I want to go home, for a whole week. You know, I'm ready to go home because this is unfamiliar. I don't feel like wanting to interact with people that I don't see often. But after 2 weeks, you find yourself falling into a routine of having fun. And by the end of the summer, you crying because you're not ready to go home. And I can just remember back in those days, it was the things that were simple in life. We had a garden. So my family has property that's in Lake Village. And we had a family home, unfortunately, that burned down years ago. I lost my grandfather in that fire. And we had a garden. And I can remember going to what they do with the peas. I can remember getting buckets going to fill it up with pecans. I can remember getting up early in the morning, going fishing. I can remember just all type of stuff. You know, everything was made from scratch. Everything. You know, and it just brought me back to a time to just remember how simple things were. I know today's world that we live in, everything is so fast. Everything is about speed. It's about now. It's about how can I get it at this moment? But that brought me back in that dream last night, as I'm sharing with you guys this morning, how simple life was, and especially being in that small town, just the beauty of just sitting back and allowing life to just enjoy it. And because of that, I don't know, it just did something to me last night, man, as I thought about that, going fishing. And now, like many small towns, if you grew up and spent time, and you know, a lot of family end up moving off. You have family members that die off that typically stayed in those areas. Areas that, you know, you grew up and you spent a lot of time. Most likely when you go back, you look and you see maybe the grass has grown up. Maybe it doesn't look the same. Maybe something else is built in that place. And that's what I thought about last night, especially down in Lake Village, man, how much the place has changed. And I'm pretty sure for a lot of you from Louisiana, Mississippi, or anywhere in this region, at some point, you've been down into a small town. You've been around in an area in which is not the same from what you remember years ago. And I'm talking for me 20 plus years ago. So I know for a lot of people, you looking at maybe 40, 50 years ago in terms of an area that you can remember being young, growing up in, and then you go back and, you know, you ride through with your family and you always hear the stories, because I could tell you from my age, but then from my mom and my grandmothers, they would say, oh yeah, I remember when these folks lived in that house. Yeah, Miss so-and-so, so-and-so. I can remember when we used to go over here, this was the candy lady. We used to have a little store. We walk over here with 5 cents, get some animal crackers, whatever. You know, that just, I don't know, that did something, man. It just made me realize the beauty of life. And now that I'm older, and especially in the society that we live in today with everything being so upbeat and fast, it gives you a reason to slow down sometime and remember and respect just what things used to be and what they were like. And I like things simple of what they used to be and what they were like. I enjoy the world of being able to have everything today, but I think this world of instant gratification, I think this world of me, 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 I think this world of everything happening at the snap of a finger, it's kind of made us sometimes forget the simple things in life, to slow down and reflect, because things pass by, and before you know it, COVID was just, it seemed like just yesterday, but COVID has been about 4 years now. And I think because when COVID happened, that slowed me down. And ever since I slowed down from COVID, in terms of being out, always going somewhere, it made me a homebody. And now, I've made my home somewhere where I really love to be. I enjoy it. I make sure my son enjoys it. And, and I think for a lot of people, slow down a little bit. All right. Message and moral of the story: slow down and appreciate what you have now, because you'll look around and time flies by. My son now is 6. He'll be 7 next month. And it seems like he was just born the other day. And now I measure my life in terms of my age. I forget my age sometimes. I only go by his age. How old are you now, son? He say, I'm 6. I'll be 7. He let you know when he going to be 7. I'll be 7 next month. But slow down a little bit. Take the time to appreciate now, the moment. Don't be so quick to run and jump to tomorrow, the day after that. Appreciate what you have now, because time will go by and you'll look back and say, man, I remember when things were like this and things were like that. But you were so busy and caught up in the moment that sometimes you missed that opportunity to embrace and appreciate that moment as is, and especially with your kids. Take the time with your kids, especially with your family, and especially with yourself. We're getting older by the day. We're not getting any younger. Until the day they find the fountain of youth, this is what it's going to be. So that's all I have for you this morning. We'll just get ready to take a break, and we'll come back, continue this conversation. I'll talk about the NBA Finals, all right? Stay tuned. There's more of the Jaguar Journal. Right. Get your day started right. 7:19 a.m. It's the Jaguar Journal. Of course, I'm Perry White. My man Grant on the board today. Mike is out. Grant holding it down. And good morning to y'all. Good morning, everybody on the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel. Good morning to everybody out there listening live on 107.3. You're waking up this morning, you hear this wonderful voice of mine. Of course, it is me, Perry White, getting you rocking and rolling this morning. Of course, some of you are into the NBA, some of you are not, but guess what? I like the NBA. I'm not really of a fan of this finals, but basketball is basketball nonetheless, and we're talking about the NBA Finals of this year, 2023, the Denver Nuggets versus the Miami Heat. Man, listen, this has been a series when you look at these two teams. Of course, the Denver Nuggets just look all the part of a bigger team. They look like the Monstars. If you watch, ever watch Space Jam, they're just a bigger team than the Miami Heat. It is what it is. And if Jimmy Butler doesn't do what he's going to do without any help, it's pretty tough for the Miami Heat in this series. You look at the last game, the Denver Nuggets now take a commanding 3-1 lead. One more and this thing is closed out, right? The Nuggets will win the NBA Finals for the first time in franchise history. And I've had years of liking the Denver Nuggets. Of course, I like the Denver Nuggets back during the day. They used to have Ty Lawson. Y'all remember Ty Lawson? They had, of course, Carmelo Anthony. At one time, even AI played for the Denver Nuggets. But those were the years of the teams that I liked in the early 2000s. When you look at that team, I used to love their uniform combinations as well, man. The Denver Nuggets had some fly uniform combinations. Now, I don't really like the Mile High City version of it, but the rest with the Rockies in the background, the mountain range, man, I used to think, and that color scheme. I love the color scheme. But right now, the Denver Nuggets commanding lead in the NBA Finals, 3-1 over the Miami Heat. 108-95 in this last matchup as the Denver Nuggets take this lead. And you look back, Aaron Gordon, 27 points for the Nuggets. You look at Jokic, 23 points. Jamal Murray, 15 points. Jokic and Murray right now being talked about as the two best in terms of a backcourt in NBA. And I think when you look at what they do, they both had a triple-double in the game before this last one. Those guys can ball. Then you get the help of a guy like a Aaron Gordon who puts up 27. He was the leading scorer for the Nuggets in this last game. And then their bench. Bruce Brown, 21 points coming off the bench. That's the type of things that'll get you over the edge. Right now, when you look at the other side for the Miami Heat, I just don't think they have enough offensive firepower. When you look at the way that they shoot, they miss a lot of shots. They turn the ball over a lot. And they just don't take advantage of opportunities when they get them. Kevin Love, 12 points. Jimmy Butler, 25 points. Adebayo, 20 points. It's not much, though. Not enough to help. Duncan Robinson coming off the bench, 12 points. Caleb Martin coming off the bench, 11 points. Kyle Lowry. Now, you get your 13 points out of Kyle Lowry, you got a decent day. But right now, it just seems when you look at this overall series, Miami just does not have enough to keep up with the Denver Nuggets. You look at the overall shooting, the Nuggets shooting 49%, 39-79 from around the range. You look in the other side for the Heat, 35 of 78, shooting 44%. Bless you. The 3 points, you look at Miami, 8 of 25, man. Live by the 3, die by the 3. 8 of 25, shooting 32%. For the Nuggets, 14 of 28, shooting 50%. Free throws, it is a hit or miss with them. They both about what and what. 17 of 20 last night for Miami. 85% on the other side. 16 of 21 for the Nuggets of 76%. Rebounds, 37 rebounds for Miami. 34 rebounds for the Denver Nuggets. Turnovers, I just talked about it. 15 turnovers for Miami. 8 for the Denver Nuggets. That's where this thing has been going. Those turnovers, because Denver will capitalize and they will get points off of those turnovers. And you look at last night, getting it done 108-95. You go back into this series as this series has been going on with the Denver Nuggets against the Miami Heat. And I think the path that the Nuggets have taken, they've only lost one game. And that one game for the Nuggets, of course, they swept the Lakers. The last time they lost the game was against the Suns back on May the 7th. What's today? June the 10th. So it's been a month since they lost the game. They lost that game 129-124 to the Phoenix Suns. And after that, they closed out the series against the Suns, and then they began to just completely put LeBron James almost into retirement. And now in this series, of course, against the Miami Heat, they have completely taken full command of the NBA Finals. And with this 3-1 lead, the next game, they can close this thing out. And what a way to get it done on the road at Miami. Have you guys been paying attention to all the superstars and everybody that has been out to these games in Miami? They have been waiting for the Heat to get a win so they can go out and have a good time in Miami. But the Nuggets have continually put an end to that. And let me tell you, I wouldn't mind on a Friday night if the Miami Heat won a game to step out in the city of Miami. As they say, you know how turned that'd be? But they've been putting an end to it, and the Denver Nuggets look like this is what they want. And now you start to look at, where do you put this team if they can close this thing out in Denver? Where would you put this team in terms of one of the better teams that we've seen as the NBA Finals champion? They're 53-29 on the season. I don't think nobody really saw this one coming. But when you look at the transition of power, the way the West has gone, you saw the transition of power, the way things shifted. You remember for a while, San Antonio was doing their thing. Then we had the for a while, Golden State. And you look at Golden State being put out by the Lakers, and the Lakers couldn't even get a win against the Nuggets. The Lakers. And I didn't expect them to get as far. This has been a year of unexpecteds because I didn't see Miami getting into the finals. I didn't see the Denver Nuggets getting into the finals. If you ask me, honestly, I thought maybe Phoenix or Golden State had opportunities. Phoenix, once they traded and got Kevin Durant, looked like they weren't going to be able to get beat. Devin Booker, they were a good team. For a while, I didn't know what was going to happen with Dallas once they got Kyrie Irving, but of course, it looked like that experiment failed. Maybe everybody just needs to get healthy, try again next year. I'm hearing the rumors per Bleacher Report that they're really trying, Kyrie and some others of the Dallas Mavericks are really trying to push to get LeBron James there. The Lakers, if you look at what they have outside of AD, what do they have? I thought if there was going to be a chance for them to get to the finals with the push that they've had, with the team that they have, it would be now. The Lakers kind of remind me of the New England Patriots, where you got Tom Brady, and in this case, you got LeBron James. Both we know of the greatest, especially in this era in time and space. But it's the people that they have around them that they try to make better. Now, AD is like having you a good receiver. Remember when a year Tom Brady had Randy Moss? He was just running straight go routes, and Tom was just chunking that thing as far as he could down the field to one of the fastest men to ever play NFL football, right? That's AD. But AD just can't. AD is like, I don't know if y'all ever had an Impala. I had plenty of friends that have an Impala. It's straight in the beginning, but after a while, that Impala always had that same problem. That engine starts to knock after so long. You may not know about that, but where I come from, I remember a lot of people with those Impalas. You drive them things after a while, that engine starts to knock. It shakes. That's AD. He just ain't solid. He good in the beginning, but he just can't stay straight. Now you look at the Lakers. I don't know what the hell the Lakers want to do moving forward. I don't know what the direction is. Is this the beginning of the end for the Lakers? But I really can't tell you in the West who it could be. Sacramento had one hell of a season. How about coming out of the ashes? When was the last time you talked about the Sacramento Kings and NBA, right? Maybe Chris Webber and the boys back in the day. Sacramento was good this year. And of course, you got Portland. You got the Trailblazers. But you don't know. I don't know moving forward what the West is going to look like. And if this is what the West is going to look like moving forward, it looks like the Denver Nuggets aren't going to slow down anytime soon. If they can continue to keep this thing together the way that they have and continue to move it. Right now, Denver Nuggets up 3-1 over the Miami Heat. The West is wide open. And when you look at the East, the fact that Miami made it out with all of the teams that are there, the 76ers, the Bucks, the Celtics. And here we are talking about a low seed Miami Heat team that was able to get past those teams and find themselves in the NBA final led by Jimmy Butler. I think nothing but incredible. Their game's going to keep going on. They're going to move on. And the next game is going to be on Monday as the Denver Nuggets try to close this thing out and put the Miami Heat on what they say, gone fishing. Miami Heat might be going fishing while the Denver Nuggets may be going on a big-time celebratory vacation. All right, let's get ready to take a break. We come back, we're going to get my man Carlton Jones, president of the Southern University Alumni Federation, to come on and talk to us about some things that are coming up so you can be a part of it. And no more complaining. If you want to be a part of something, he's going to come on and give you some information and talk to you about what you can do to be a part. All right, so y'all stay tuned. We'll be back. More of the Jaguar Journal. All right. All right, 7:34, getting your Saturday started. The Jaguar Journal. I'm Perry White. My man Grant on the board. Jump right into it. president of the Southern University Alumni Federation, national president. Want to welcome to the Jaguar Journal this morning, my man, Carlton Jones. Good morning, Carlton.
Good morning, Brother Perry. How you doing?
Oh, man, I like when they call me Brother Perry, man. That's when I shake your hand real firm. Good morning, Brother Carlton. How are you?
Doing good. You're taking me back this morning, man, talking about when you were younger, and I'm gonna say it. I don't know if I could do this Dixie Cups. I call it Dixie Cups, but boy, it was a fight to get that 50 cents to get those Dixie Cups down the street.
So you know what I'm talking about, them throwback days, man?
Man, you're bringing me back. I said, man, I remember that. And just recently had my girls, 10 and 7, and we were making some cups here just yesterday evening. So you're trying to bring it back, man. You know, talk about tradition, trying to pass that along, and that's definitely something we do at Southern. We pass on those traditions.
Let's talk about passing along those traditions, because you guys have an event coming up in New Orleans. The Southern University Alumni Federation will host this leadership summit coming up June the 22nd through the 24th. Man, give us some information and talk to us in terms of what is a leadership summit and what the people can do to be a part of it.
Yes, sir. So I'll start out with the website, www.sualumni.org, and you can click. There's a link that states 2023 National Leadership Summit. The Federation, of course, has been around since 1941, and traditionally had a conference every year. About 10 to 12 years ago, we kind of diversified from that and went into a leadership summit and a conference. So we alternate years. This is a summit year. The summits are usually held on either our Shreveport or New Orleans campus. That's why we're in New Orleans this year. But the summit is in a culmination of the leadership. We've got over 20 chapter presidents that will be president. They'll be flying in from across the nation. And we're going to go into some chapter development. We're going to have an opportunity to meet with the administration that week, the president, board supervisors. You're going to have chancellors and deans. They're all going to be in the room. And we're going to have opportunity, number one, to educate alumni, and not only just our alumni, but educate our leaders. And that's one of the things I wanted to focus on, developing leadership, so we can continue to grow this organization. But the Leadership Summit, again, is going to start June 22nd through the 24th. Thursday is going to be at the Host Hotel, the Hotel Roosevelt in New Orleans, a great facility. I don't know if you're familiar with the Roosevelt, but it's a really nice place. And then Friday, we're going to be on campus at the new Arts and Humanities building on Tunos campus. If you haven't been there, it's about 6 years old. It's a huge auditorium. And great for events just like this. And the Jaguar Journal's own Reggie Flood is going to be there. We're going to be talking about Bayou Classic 50 years. I don't know if we got into that. I don't want to get ahead of you, Perry, but we got 50 years this year for the Bayou Classic. So Dr. Belletto is going to be there, president of NOCCI, as well as Reggie. Pete Richardson is going to be there. We're going to have a conversation about the Bayou Classic, those traditions, and what we can do. You're also going to hear from the president of the university I mentioned, but also that, I got a special guest, Dr. Sean Wilson is going to be giving us a little keynote on leadership. We know he's got plenty of experience working at DOTD, and he's going to impart some leadership skills on us as well. So it's going to be an impactful weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone. And again, you can check out our website, www.sualumni.org. Click on the 2021 National Leadership Summit where you can register, or you can be a sponsor for us. So we want to do that as well.
You talking about the Bayou Classic. The Bayou Classic is really the reason how I ended up even liking Southern. I can remember back in then, I tell this story all the time on here. My mom went to UAPB, so I grew up around UAPB, being the Golden Line. I was the little kid in the black and gold windsuit, swishing around with the little pom-pom dragging on the ground and my hat to the side. But I always can remember going to the games because she made sure we went to the games. Whether we traveled or it was right there in Arkansas. And something about Southern always stuck out to me, but I really didn't know much because I was small and as a kid. But my aunt, and talking about going back and remembering things, my aunt one year for Thanksgiving, they would typically go down to New Orleans and leave all the kids. Because, of course, now that I'm older, I realize you're not really trying to deal with no kids during the Bayou Classic. You're trying to do some adult things unless there's a large group of kids. So they would always leave us back, and they'll leave for the weekend and come back, and then, we'll hang out, watch the game, play around until all the adults come back that Sunday. But one year, we finally were older. I was in the 6th or 7th grade, finally was old enough to go. And when I went, it was something about the Bayou Classic that was a lasting effect to my life, even today, where I'm here doing the Jaguar Journal, talking about Southern and the SWAC, and even being able to tell the story about the Bayou Classic. But that game within itself, the atmosphere, the ambiance, the two teams, when you talk about the traditions, the story, the history of Southern and Grambling. But something about Southern stuck with me that day. My aunt's husband, my uncle, he went to Grambling, was in the band at Grambling. So everybody in the car on the way down was Grambling, Grambling, Grambling. I was the lone Southern guy once the game was over and we were headed back, and all I could do was talk about Southern the whole way. And when I got back, they said, "What did they do to you down there for you to come back? All you talking about is Southern." I bought Southern hats. I bought Southern shirts. That year, I think during the Bayou Classic, they were giving away the bucket hats back in the day, the Bayou Classic bucket hats.
Yeah.
And you can remember that. And I had that hat. I don't know where that hat is. I tried to keep that hat as long as I could, but the Bayou Classic is memorable, especially when you're watching it on TV. And it's even more memorable when you're in person to realize, and for me, that was the first time I saw 70,000 plus people, African-American black folk, in the Superdome for a football game with the atmosphere that the way that it was. And man, it was something. The band was performing with Mystical that year. It just see you taking me back, Carlton, because that was what made me fall in love with Southern, going to the Bayou Classic. So to celebrate 50 years of that thing, to know 50 years has been going on, and this thing has always continued to turn people into fans, just the average spectator into a fan that may not have known about Southern and Grambling, especially when you have a national audience on NBC. And most importantly, you get hundreds of thousands of people who may not even went to Southern and Grambling that flocks to New Orleans to just be a part of the entire festivities and events of that weekend. And most importantly, even when you talk about the leadership conference down in the summit down in New Orleans, I've been a part of the leadership summit, been to some national conferences as well as the leadership summit. The last time I went, it was some years back, but it was at Suno, man. And to be able to get people together, what do you think, Carlton, for you to get younger folks? Because, you know, when I remember going to the conference, the national conference, and going to the leadership summit, I saw a lot of the same people, and they were of an older generation from the throwback Southern. And I typically was the youngest one in the room when you looked around. And I always wonder, how can we get the people, the young men, the young women my age and younger, to be a part of what the Alumni Federation is doing to make that change and usher in the next generation of Southern?
Perry, that's a good question. And to be honest, you know, I'm a result of that investment. About 6 years ago, I think when Preston Castile was president, we started a SUAN, Southern University Young Alumni Network. And to your point, it's going to take an investment. And 6 years ago, we started SUAN, and 6 years later, most of the board that served with me on the Federation are SUAN members. They were under 40 at the time. So I think to answer your question, number one, we have to invest in the leadership, and that's why we have a leadership summit. We have to invest in our younger folks as well. It's not just what can you do for me? But we've got to give them the tools in order to succeed, not only within the Federation, but in career and within life. We got to be able to invest in them, and then they're going to come back. You know, they're going to bring it back. They're going to remember, like you did, on those discussions, conversations, the mentorship, the development, and they're going to want to do it again to that generation. That's where the tradition comes in. And when it's done properly, the Southern University will be here for another 100 years. So I agree with you entirely, and I think that the Leadership Summit is a good start for young alumni to come out to engage. But you got to be in the room. And one thing I learned was, I hear stories about Donald Wade, and you talk about Bayou Classic, Russell Stockard, some of these people who are patrons that serve the university as well as Bayou Classic. And who's telling your story? That's what I always talk about. Who's telling your story? If we're not invested in the younger alumni, who's going to be around to tell your story? If not, it's going to go with you. Miles Moron say the baton is going to go with you in the grave. You don't want that to happen. So I'm really excited about the summit. I'm excited about getting young alumni engaged. And again, talking about the Bayou Classic, it started out with 70,000 people in Tulane. And I'm looking at Stockard's book right now. I'm just referencing it. From the beginning, there were 70-something thousand at the first game. And that's tough to uphold. Years has gone up and down. It definitely got lower than that. But from the beginning, this thing has been a tradition. I'm excited to celebrate it and excited to celebrate with all alumni.
Yeah, you talk about Donald Wade. When I worked at the Alumni Federation, man, I was over there. Everybody, if you've been to the alumni house over there, you know who Miss Rutledge is. You can't walk in that house. See that laugh right there? Because, when you walk in there, you better come correct, right? Am I right?
Look, I'm the president. I better come correct. And I come in correct.
But you look at you talk about telling your stories, and that was one of the things when I was a student how I ultimately got to do this show here was telling the stories using On the Yard, something that I created when I was a student, because that was one of the things I wanted to do. I kept hearing the oral stories, but when I went to look, because I saw the age of digital media and the way content was being put out, and I was watching content coming from so many different areas, and I was looking to see, well, what content do we have as a system, as an institution that tells our story of these many great people that I hear about all the time? And I couldn't really find a lot. So I said, you know what? Why not record this and create this while we have it now? Because when you go on Future in Life and you look back, maybe something within my era I can leave to be a part of, some type of history archive of who the people were at the time that I was around when I tell the stories about those educators and the people that was around during my time, just like many others before me tell me the stories of the people, the educators and administrators that was around during their times. But, I think a lot of times, especially when we look at Southern Carlton and not just from the Alumni Federation, but from the institution, there seems to be reluctant effort to want to include young people sometime. Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't think it's purposeful. And being in a role, you're talking about time, it's been about 10 months now. Number one, I think, is communication. Every generation has a different style of communication. I remember when I was at Southern, Facebook's actually just kind of getting going. There was MySpace.
Oh yeah, I had a MySpace.
I was in, I was an alpha, and I was out the day before an event, and then someone had posted it on the website, and my sister was like, "Hey, I didn't know you was at this." Oh, well, how did you know? Well, they posted it. Now that's how long ago. That was like a day late. I mean, it was a big deal. Wait a minute, how you know it was yesterday? But everything is live right now. I think a lot of it is communication. Down the way you think, or some of those alumni, a lot of times, there's different ways to communicate. Phone calls, emails, letters. Everyone communicates differently. I find that the term I use is communication. I think we just need to communicate better, or try to expand our levels of communication. Now, writing letters can be expensive. Doing pamphlets can be expensive. But we can't pick up the phone, or we can't send a text, and we can't send an email. So I think the biggest difference is just communicating. Matter of fact, I just met with Brandon Horn, the new SGA president, and he's like, Instagram. He said Instagram is it. This is how you reach us. This is how everybody's going to be big on the gram. So you got to learn how to communicate. The gram's not going to be big for Donna Wade if he were here. Gram would be big for him. So there are two different ways of communicating to different type of alumni. We just got to find a way to encompass everyone.
Yeah, and that was, that's when I realized YouTube, during my time, YouTube was starting to really push and take off. And I was like, man, this could be something. And Twitter at the time was the thing coming out of Facebook and going into Twitter. So I utilized Twitter and YouTube a lot, and then Instagram on the back end. And I think also a lot of times when you have an older generation, they're kind of stuck in their way. They're not really accepting or open to wanting to transition and change, to evolve, to say, all right, what the young folks doing? All right, is that what they do? Well, because I know I tell the story all the time. My grandmother was one of change. She learned how to text before my mother. And once she learned how to text, the phone calls kind of went away. And she would just text because it was simple. It was easier for her to just communicate, especially if she was doing something. But she was open to it. And, I was shocked at it. I thought my grandma would be the last person that would be open to text, but she realized, all right, for my grandson and the rest of the grandkids, if I'm going to communicate, this is one of the ways that they do it. So I got to get with the program, and she did. And, and I think for a lot of times, that's one of the biggest issues, kind of being stuck in your way, not willing to change. But change is good. You got to keep up. Things evolve. And the way that they evolve, you got to keep up with the next generation. Because, one of the things I saw all the time, it was like you catered more towards the people in the beginning, the people that are now in position to give more, that can write the bigger checks. But I always say the number is in the masses. If I can get 30,000 young alums or 30,000 alums to give me $5-10, I wouldn't have to depend so much on those few alums that's constantly writing the big checks, or that we're constantly waiting on to write a big check, to engage everybody and make everybody feel a part of the family of being SU and being proud alums, and especially being active alums, Carlton.
Yep. Well, and that's, we talked about that. You've got to develop other sources of revenue, or you'll get spoiled on the way things are going. You reference, like some of these older alum, they're writing the checks. You're correct, but you got to develop other sources of revenue so that you can make decisions, not based on a particular group, but based on what's right for the organization. And so, for example, you saw that we just cleared the land. We just poured a parking lot on our land. I mean, that's something that hadn't been done. I mean, we're talking about 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing substantial has happened on that property.
The sign was so old, it started to fall.
Man, look, and I saw it. I saw the potential of the organization. I saw it. And so we've got the parking lot going. We're going to be doing some RV parking tailgate on our land come this fall. So we talked about alternate sources of revenue. We've got to develop revenue sources for organizations, and that's part of being a 501c3. I mean, it's every organization has that struggle, but you've got to develop sources of revenue so you don't get spoiled on one particular group or crowd. And now we have an opportunity to raise dollars, and we can share those with the students. We can develop more programs, use that to further the organization without being tied to any particular group. So, again, you can get a little spoiled on a certain particular group provided checks, but you've got to develop revenue sources so that the organization can strive rightfully and move forward.
And I'm going to ask you this lastly, in terms of the comfortable level. You hear people all the time, well, I don't want to right now. They're not going to do right with the money. They ain't going to do this. They're not going to do that. To get people comfortable to trustworthy status of dealing with Southern, what would you say about that? Because I'm sure you've heard it just as much as I've heard it, and most of the people who are listening, who's been a part of it, they've heard it over the years of just kind of that distrust of really wanting to do things. But what would you say to that?
So it was, and so Perry, that was one of the things I ran on. It was building trust. And oftentimes that's the reason, some people don't give because they don't trust where their money's going to go. A lot of that is misinformation. And, there are rumors out, there's posts and stuff, they're taking money. I heard they were stealing. And, a lot of that is a lot of misinformation. So a couple of years ago, I started the Leadership Academy just for that purpose. We've got about 2 classes in now, but just give an opportunity for you to meet face-to-face with administration, face-to-face with alumni, and hear what they're doing, why they make the decisions they make. A lot of times, those faculty are faced with tough decisions between, getting new materials for a classroom or hiring an employee. And, either decision is going to make one particular crowd unhappy, but you've got to know the reason why those decisions are made, or else you'll come up with your own reason. And I call it, it's not an ignorance as you don't know, just ignorance is that you're not informed. Yeah. So the key to that, you've got to fight it with education. You've got to educate alumni. You've got to teach them why decisions are made or where this came from. And then also, one of the things I did with our organization is that I've opened up our executive council call. A lot of times you talk about it feels like it's a clique or that, you can't get involved in making these decisions in silos. Every executive council call I've had has been open to the membership, and we're going to continue doing that throughout my administration, just for an opportunity so you can see where those decisions are made and just be open. And I think if you do those 2 things, if you educate alumni and if you give them an opportunity to see or be a part of the decision-making process, I think the trust will come back. Again, it takes time. With like a relationship, it just takes time. But I think it'll come back. And to be honest, there are a lot of those that do trust university and donate. So, not everybody, but to those who may be misinformed or don't know, we have to create opportunities for them to get that education and to learn, and so they can make informed decisions and give to Southern.
Carlton, give us that information one more time for the Southern University Leadership Conference down in New Orleans, June the 22nd through the 24th.
Yes. Come on out, www.sualumni.org. Click on 2023 National Leadership Summit. Come down there and fellowship with our alumni. Again, we talked about the administration is going to be in the house. You're going to have chapter presidents from across the nation is going to be in the house. You're going to have Dr. Sean Wilson. You're going to have Pete Richardson going to be there. Your own Reggie Flood is going to be paneling one of the Bayou Classic 50 Years panels. Again, we're going to have a great opportunity, a great time in New Orleans. It's the perfect time to be in the city. The Hotel Roosevelt is a perfect host for this event, and I look forward to seeing alumni there.
Hey, Carlton, I want to thank you for coming on. If you hear his voice, this is Carlton Jones, the National Alumni President for the Southern University Alumni Federation. Carlton, thank you for coming on, man. Enjoyed the conversation with you.
All right. Yes, sir. Appreciate it, Perry.
All right. Let's get ready to take a break. We're going to go to the top of the hour. We'll come back. I'll talk to you
We're going to talk about some of the top football coaches in the conference, as well as Pete Richardson being inducted into the Black College Football Hall of Fame. All right, so y'all stay tuned. We'll be back. More of the Jaguar Journal. 8:03 a.m. It's the Jaguar Journal. I'm Perry White. Good morning to everybody out there. Good morning to everybody on the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel. Thank y'all for joining us, of course, and subscribe if you're listening. You haven't been a part of the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel, go on there and subscribe. We'd love to have you so you can go back and watch any of the old episodes, listen to it. That's one of the reasons why we started, telling our story. A lot of times, if you didn't catch the Jaguar Journal live, and I know it was tough for a lot of people, 7 to 9 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and they would typically get in at about 8:30 and say, hey, I missed the first hour. What'd you guys talk about? It's a way for me to go back and listen. And we didn't have anything yet for a while. And so now we have the YouTube channel. You can go back and watch any of the shows since we've gotten it started back. I think January is the first time when we got it really up and running and figured it out. And, now you go back and listen to any one of those shows. We've had some amazing guests over the months on here. Some awesome conversations and topics talked about. So there's a way for you to keep up with it, and that's the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel. I love to look at the chats of everybody talking in there, going back and forth with the conversations, interacting with me. I know I don't get a chance to really do a lot of typing and texting to you guys in there while we're doing the show, but I'm looking and I'm watching as you guys go back and forth with the conversations in there, and I appreciate you guys doing that, and as well as everybody out there listening on 107.3 FM and wherever you're listening at on any type of device or app. We appreciate you for tuning in. Saturday mornings can be rough, but hey, nonetheless, you get up and you turn on to us and you're listening to us. So we thank you for that. And we're going to keep trying to do this each and every Saturday for you guys as we continue to talk about whatever's going on with Southern, whatever's going on in the HBCU realm, the spectrum, and whatever else. It doesn't matter. Just have a conversation. I'm talking the NBA, whatever. And as we get ready to start this 8 o'clock hour, we're going to talk about former Southern University head football coach Pete Richardson being elected into the Black College Football Hall of Fame. The induction will happen today, June 10th, over in Atlanta. And he's only one of 8 inductees into the Black College Football Hall of Fame today. Of course, Pete Richardson. You know that name, right? No? Yes? If you don't, let me tell you who he is. Great guy. I've had him. He doesn't talk much. Just get him to talk. It takes a lot to really get a lot out of him. I've gotten him comfortable a couple times, but for some reason, when I call him, he never saves my number. So that's my thing with Pete Richardson. I always have to say, hey, this is Perry White. I said, Coach, man, you got to save my number. But Pete Richardson, of course, a legendary coach over at Southern University. If you've been in the Baton Rouge area and you've heard about Southern, if you haven't, I'm telling you, won 4 Black College Football National Championships in his 17 seasons at Southern, and was the only coach inducted into this 14th class of the Black College Hall of Fame. He had a record at Southern of 134-62 with 5 SWAC conference championships, man. To win 1 is tough, but let alone to win 5. And he was around at Southern for a long time. You look at other guys that'll be joining him today in terms of being inducted into the Black College Hall of Fame. You look at Albert Lewis of Grambling. You guys remember Albert Lewis? Probably not. Maybe a little too old for some of you guys, but some of you guys do remember Albert Lewis of Grambling. You're talking about Henry Lawrence and Tyrone McGriff of Florida A&M. Leslie Frazier of Alcorn State. Elijah Pitts, Philander Smith College. That's up my way. Philander Smith is in Little Rock, Arkansas. And Johnny Walton of Elizabeth City State University. The ceremony will be today. Coach Pete Richardson, the second winningest coach in Southern University history. You know who number 1 is? I'll give you a second to think. Just think about who's number 1. The stadium's named after him. A.W. Mumford is number 1. And Pete Richardson is right there behind him. Pete, of course, 4 Black College National Championships, 5 SWAC championships. Richardson was hired at the time coming to Southern in 93. Now, the stories I've heard from Pete Richardson and the stories I've heard from a lot of people around Southern during that time, I was just a little young pup back in that day, a little young guy. But in 93, a lot of people didn't want Pete Richardson at that time. He had coached at Winston-Salem before he came to Southern University. And Southern and Winston-Salem had played up in Shreveport. And guess who won the game? Southern did. So it is tough to try to hire a coach that your team just beat the previous year, right? To convince everybody to be a part of that and to be on board on that. And a lot of people were not on board with that. But Dr. Dolores Spikes stood out there. She stepped out there and said, we're going to get this guy. Marina Castle was the athletic director at the time. And in 1993, 1 year after Southern beat Pete Richardson's Winston-Salem team in Shreveport, Coach Pete Richardson was named the head football coach at Southern. While at Winston-Salem, he had a record of 41-14-1. So although Southern beat him, he still had one hell of a record of 41-14-1. He won 3 CIAA titles at the school in 1988, 1990, and 1991. Richardson's first Southern team won the SWAC and Black College titles. He also won titles at Southern in 95, 97, and in 2003. Those are the Black College national titles, not the SWAC titles, because we know Southern went on a run for a while there in the latter part of the 90s coming into the 2000s, have not losing a SWAC conference game. Pete Richardson, also a member of the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, the Southern University Sports Hall of Fame, and the Winston-Salem Sports Hall of Fame as well. When you talk about a guy in Pete Richardson, I grew up watching. Once again, you talk about going back to the Bayou Classic, that conversation I was having with Carlton. Pete Richardson was the guy that I saw on the sidelines at many games, because during those times of the old days, if you can recall Black college football, you had Winston-Salem, Southern, where he came out of. But when he got to Southern, you remember BET? Yeah. They used to show Black college football games. You remember MBC? Robert Townsend and some people had MBC. That used to be a good show to watch Black college football before you start to get the era of the ESPN coming in and taking over. But during those times, you look at watching those games, Southern was on a lot. And matter of fact, back in those times, Southern and UAPB was typically one of the early games in the season that typically started your SWAC play once UAPB joined the SWAC in the mid to late 90s. And Southern and UAPB typically made that BET game or NBC. But other than that, I watched Southern a lot during those days growing up. If I wasn't at a UAPB game, I would watch them. And then you heard about the legend of Pete Richardson. You heard how good those Southern University teams were. I was not around Baton Rouge during those times or around the program like many others who have grown up right here, who are, legacy of Southern, who are right here, are natives of locals of Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas, who had opportunities to spend time on the bluff during those days of those runs of Pete Richardson. But I had a chance to see Pete Richardson from afar. When I say from afar, I'm talking television, or when Southern came up to Pine Bluff or Little Rock and took on UAPB. But there was something mystical about him. It was mystic when you talked about Pete Richardson, the aura of him, the success that he had. Of course, Southern University's head football coach now, Eric Dooley, was a part of the staff here at Southern under Pete Richardson. When he was named the head coach here at Southern, Pete Richardson was sitting right there on the front row. Pete Richardson now does the play-by-play with Chris Powers for the Southern University Jaguar Sports Network. So when you're listening to the football games, you have Pete Richardson right there giving you a perspective coming from the coaching side at Southern. No matter who's the opponent they take on, he's right there. And I've had the opportunity to have some conversations with him on the show that I do with Coach Kadar, sitting down with him and asking him some questions that a lot of times I think people out there want to know about Pete Richardson. I've told Pete, man, you need to write a book. I've told him, man, Pete, you need to do a show. People love and want to hear about you. And the thing about it, as it goes back to talking about archiving our history, he is one of those historical figures that we have to be able to allow him to tell the stories instead of, once it's too late, everybody else telling the stories about who he is. And especially in this day and age with all of the digital media content and the easiest ways to make videos and whatever else, audio, however you want to do it, podcasting, whatever, to sit down and let him tell a story of his background, which is interesting, coming out of Ohio. He's an Ohio guy, played at Dayton, also played in the NFL for some time, got into coaching, and ended up at Winston-Salem and then coming to Southern. But telling the stories, because these are the historical figures that when we start to go back, and it's 20, 30, 40 years from now, and everybody's talking about the great Pete Richardson the way that we talk about now, the great A.W. Mumford, these are the stories that you want people to know. And that it's just not oral, that it does get misconstrued over the years because it's gone from mouth to mouth in terms of somebody telling a story. But you get to hear directly, as they say, from the horse's mouth. And that is Coach Pete Richardson being able to tell you his history, tell you the stories of being around here at this program. And one of the questions I asked him, I said, Coach, you know, with all the success that you've had here at Southern, did you ever get calls or get anybody to any other schools to try to pull you away? And I said, and if you didn't, was it because do you think the color of your skin? And he told me one of the interesting stories about schools were calling him to get him from Southern, but it was not to be a head coach. It was to be a coordinator. And Coach Pete Richardson said something very interesting to me. He said, I believe the body of work of what I did here at Southern, considering the lack of resources and what I was able to do to turn this program around, should have been enough for somebody to say he could be a head coach somewhere with resources. But he said, no, they wanted him to be a coordinator and not a head coach. And he just wasn't going to leave somewhere where he was the head guy to go somewhere else to be not the head guy. And so that's why Southern was able to keep him for so long. Of course, the back end of Coach Pete Richardson's career here at Southern wasn't, I think, what a lot of Jaguar fans wanted. He ultimately was kind of pushed out the door, as you could say, or forced into retirement in 2009 before Stump Mitchell took over in 2010. And I think for a while there just wasn't really a good foot when you talk about Southern and Pete Richardson with the relationship. But now you talk about the relationship, he's back around a lot more. We even have a game named after him. This year's game, the Pete Richardson Classic / maybe the Boombox Classic, but the Pete Richardson Classic this year is always the first home game on Southern University's schedule, and Jackson State is going to be the opponent this year. So you're talking about him going into the Black College Hall of Fame today. But then the Pete Richardson Classic this year is going to be a big one, perhaps maybe the biggest game of the year outside of homecoming at home for Southern, with Jackson State coming in. Both teams played for a SWAC championship last year, Jackson State getting the victory. So congratulations to Coach Pete Richardson. I know you guys got a lot of memories, a lot of history when you talk about him. I always tell Coach, I think we're about the same size in terms of clothes. I think he's about a large, and maybe if he's pushing a medium, I hope not. But if he's about I said, man, Coach, I know you got all that old school Southern gear, the Russell and everything else in your closet somewhere. Let me step in your closet and wear some of that stuff, man. I want some of the throwbacks when I show up to the game, man. The hats, the pullovers, the windbreakers, all of that. I know he has a closet full, and he's always reluctant. He looks at me, he laughs, and then he kind of changes the subject. So he's not ready to get up off that stuff yet. But the day that he is, trust me, I'm going to be right there with a bag and a tote ready to take it. And don't be surprised if you see me at a Southern game myself and some of that throwback gear that Coach Pete Richardson used to wear. And congratulations to him. Hats off to all the success, all the young men that he molded into great football players, into men, into the society, being citizens of the world today, and as well as the championships, the great times, the memories, because I know you all, I talked about it early in the show, going back into those younger days of having memories and what things meant. Pete Richardson created a lot of great memories for people to be Jaguars, and people still hold on to that to this day when you talk about the Jaguar Nation, the spirit of Lacumba, and just talking about Southern University football. Of course, it has always been there, but it's nothing like winning championships and then being able to brag about championships and how much better you are to other teams when you're able to have the success that Coach Pete Richardson brought here to Southern University on the bluffs of Baton Rouge. So congratulations to him. Hats off to Coach, and much success into the future. I'll try to get him here on the show. If he want, I think he's a little older now, so this might be a little too early for him, but I'll try to get him here on the show in the future, and we'll try to take a walk down memory lane. All right, so let's get ready to take a break. We come back, I'll talk to you about a ranking that I saw online about the top SWAC coaches 12 through 1. I'll go through what they have on their rankings, and then you call in 225-499-1073 or in the chat on the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel and tell me, what do you think about the rankings, and maybe who do you have in yours? All right, so y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. More of the Jaguar Journal. 8:21 a.m. Yeah, man, it's bright and early. It's starting. The sun's been up for a while now. It's the Jaguar Journal. Thank you guys for tuning in. Good morning to everybody on the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel. As always, I appreciate you guys. Of course, got my man Grant. Grant, let's get him up on that YouTube channel for us right there. Grant stepping in for my man Mike this morning. Appreciate you, Grant. I asked him, I said, man, I hope it ain't too early in the morning for you. He said, no, man, I rock and roll this early. And thank Carlton Jones coming on. He's the national president of the Southern University Alumni Federation, coming on, talking to you guys about the Southern University coming up, the Leadership Summit down into New Orleans. You guys go if you want more additional information and didn't get a chance to hear. You can go back and listen to his interview on the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel on this show, or you can go and look at the Southern University Alumni Federation page and be able to find more information in terms of the details of anything that you want to be a part of going down to New Orleans to be a part of that. All right, let's move forward with the show. This is an interesting article I saw that came out by HBCUsports.com, and it was by Jared Hoffman. It came out, and he said, who are the top football coaches in the SWAC, right, coming into the 2023 season? So this should be interesting. And I went through this list, and I'm going to go through the list of what Jared Hoffman put down of the top coaches as he ranked them in 2023 for the SWAC. And if you're in the chat, I'm pretty sure you guys are going to go back and forth about who you think. And if you want to call in, 225-499-1073, you can call in. You can talk to me about it. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go through 12 through 6, all right? I'm going to go 12 through 6 with you guys. HBCU Sports, Jared Hoffman, who are the top football coaches in the SWAC, and he ranked them. And let's start at number 12, and I'll give you a background of these guys in terms of who he has and why he ranked them. Let's start with number 12, and he starts with my hometown, Pine Bluff. Alonzo Hampton just being named the head football coach at Pine Bluff at UAPB. Alonzo Hampton entering his first year as the coach of UAPB, a team that has struggled. They won the SWAC Western Division title and 2021 spring season. Of course, they was right there with Southern. But since then, they have struggled. The Golden Lions have posted a 5-17 record in the last 2 seasons, including in 2022, a season which, man, was tough. When you look overall for Southern, for UAPB, Hampton will look to turn things around for UAPB, but would have to do so without his leading rusher, of course, Kayvon Britton, who left the program and transferred over to Prairie View A&M. That was big. And then they lost their star offensive lineman, Mark Evans, who is now playing in the NBA. He was an undrafted free agent, now getting a contract in the NBA. Let's keep it going. That's number 12. So, y'all, let's keep track of it. If you got to write it down and put it together. Number 12, Alonzo Hampton at UAPB. Next on the list is number 11, Kendrick Wade, Mississippi Valley State. Coach Wade returns to his alma mater. And it's also his first collegiate coaching job, looking to turn things around for a program that has not had a winning season since 2006. Of course, last year, Vincent Dancy spent 5 seasons at Mississippi Valley. He posted a 10-38 overall record. Vincent Dancy now on the coaching staff with Coach Deion Sanders at Colorado. He's a position coach now. Coach Sanders saw something in Vincent Dancy. I liked Vincent Dancy. I thought the way that his teams played at Mississippi Valley were tough. They just didn't have enough. But nonetheless, it's not about Coach Deion Sanders or Vincent Dancy. It's about Kendrick Wade, who's now the new head coach at Mississippi Valley. Last year, the Delta Devils had the worst offense in the SWAC. And with the 3 best players no longer there, especially with you look at Caleb Johnson, and I said Kayvon Britton. Kayvon Britton did not go to Prairie View. Caleb Johnson from Mississippi Valley went to Prairie View. Kayvon Britton transferred and went somewhere else. So I apologize for that. I just thought about that. I had Kayvon and Caleb mixed up, both 2 heck of running backs in the conference. But Kayvon Britton did not go to Prairie View coming out of Pine Bluff. Caleb Johnson from Mississippi Valley went to Prairie View this year. And so Prairie View got a good one out of him. But you look at Coach Wade, he's going to have a job at Mississippi Valley at that number 11 spot. So we look at Alonzo Hampton at 12, Kendrick Wade, number 11. All right, let's go to number 10. Raymond Woody of Bethune-Cookman. Coach Woody takes over a program that is his alma mater. Of course, if you've been paying attention to Bethune-Cookman in the early part of the year coming out of January, you saw all of the social media rift that was going on with Bethune-Cookman, the ups and downs with Ed Reed and all of the social media push. And so they ultimately pushed him out the way after about a month on the job. Raymond Woody comes in, and he looks to turn around a program that has been disastrous his first 2 years since transitioning into the SWAC for the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, who went 2-9 each of his past 2 seasons, putting up consecutive losing seasons for the first time since 2007. Things have been tough for Bethune-Cookman. Of course, they've dealt with tropical storms, Ed Reed, and his fair share of adversity. So Coach Woody is going to have his hands full coming into Bethune-Cookman, trying to turn that program around. And these 3 programs that I talked to you about for 12 through 10 is Pine Bluff, Alonzo Hampton, Valley, Kendrick Wade, and then, of course, Bethune-Cookman with Raymond Woody. That is 1 through 12 through 10. Let's go to number 9. Number 9 surprised me a little bit, all right? I can probably agree with the first 3. It's a toss-up when you look at those first 3, 12 through 10. But now number 9. And Jared puts Hugh Jackson at the number 9 spot. Hugh Jackson, of course, Grambling State's head coach, former NFL head coach. And you look at Hugh Jackson, it's basically what he said has done. What has he done for Grambling? You look at Grambling's trying to bring back its swagger of who they were, being the G-men last year. It was tough for the G-men as they finished 3-8. With Coach Hugh Jackson. He's entering his 2nd season as Grambling's head coach, but he has a loaded recruiting class that he will be bringing in. We'll finally start to see these young guys grow up with this recruiting class of Grambling. Only time would tell what Coach Hugh Jackson is able to do at Grambling. I think they're in a position. I like Grambling, actually. When I look at them last year, they played solid defense. Run game was great. Just couldn't find a quarterback to pass the ball. I thought Grambling should have beat Southern in the Bayou Classic. Hard to say, hard to hear when you're hearing that from a Southern guy, but they pretty much commanded that game. But you know what hurt them? They got away from the run, put the game in their quarterback hands. He ultimately caused 4 turnovers in that ball game, which cost Grambling, which Southern's defense took advantage and put points on the board because both offenses were struggling. But Grambling's was doing a little bit better with the addition of having that run game, which looked like could not be stopped. So Hugh Jackson fell short going 3-8. He's at the number 9 spot. What you think about that? Next, coming in at the number 8 spot, Eddie Robertson Jr., not any relation to the great Eddie Robertson. I always have to say that at Grambling State, but Eddie Robertson Jr., of course, if you remember him, a long-time broadcaster with my guy Charlie Neal over the years covering HBCU football. Now he's the head coach coming into his 2nd season at Alabama State. My man Allscript liked to call him, what did he call him? The real estate coach. You look at what Coach Eddie Robertson does, of course, a former NFL linebacker. He's an alum of Alabama State coming back to take over the program that has not seen much success in the past. Robinson's first year as a head coach and his first time at any capacity as a head coach. And that's funny that they put Eddie Robertson over Hugh Jackson, right? And this is Coach Rob's first time being a head coach. But in his first year leading his alma mater, he put forth a very good effort. The Hornets went 6-5, which was the program's first winning season since 2015. He's a former pro defensive player. And, of course, last year, you look at the mix-up between him and Coach Deion Sanders, the whole he ain't SWAC thing really turned into something big. When you look at Eddie Rob and Deion Sanders in Jackson State, that's going to be interesting this year with that matchup. But Eddie Robinson at the 8th spot, Eddie Robinson Jr. Number 7, I don't understand this one, but we'll roll with it. Clarence McKinney of Texas Southern, a guy that was on the hot seat last year that I thought probably would have lost his job, but they found a way to beat Southern up in Dallas, and that kind of seemed to be a turning point for the season. But he made his way to Texas Southern after spending 10 years serving at multiple universities at the Power 5 level. He got off to a rough start, finishing with a 4-21 record in his first 3 seasons, including go 0-11 in his first year at Texas Southern. This past season, however, the Tigers changed. It kind of went a little different for them. They went 5-6, falling one game short of the SWAC Western Division title. As you remember, they lost on the road to Alabama A&M after being up big in the fourth quarter. They had it right there in front of them to go to the SWAC championship, and they fumbled it away. They're led by their star quarterback, Andrew Body, and Ladarius Owens, their running back. I think this team will be in a good position, but they have the recipe to be a top contender in the SWAC. Coach Clarence McKinney at the number 7 spot coming into this season. All right, number 6, and then we're going to take a break. Jackson State's T.C. Taylor. Of course, in 2023, we'll see what Coach T.C. Taylor has as a head coach. He's a longtime Jackson State guy, as he's an alum of Jackson State. He's been on the coaching staff of different HBCUs over the past 17 years. He's taken over the reign of Jackson State. Now that Coach Deion Sanders has moved on to Colorado. Of course, Deion Sanders was the SWAC Coach of the Year. Coach Taylor has kept Jackson State's recruiting class. If you've seen, you just constantly see him with the transfer portal. There's all type of things going on with them in the transfer portal, adding 14 FBS transfers and still a lot more as they continue to be in there. But he's going to have an uphill battle as the two-time SWAC champions try to three-peat. They lost a huge chunk of their team that they've had a championship success with to the transfer portal. The biggest question this year, will T.C. Taylor have what it takes to continue what the layout of what Coach Deion Sanders created for Jackson State? That's going to be the biggest one. So right now, 12 through 6, before we take a break. Alonzo Hampton at UAPB, number 12. Number 11, Kendrick Wade, Mississippi Valley State, number 11. Raymond Woody, Bethune-Cookman, number 10. Hugh Jackson of Grambling State, number 9. Eddie Robertson Jr. at Alabama State, number 8. Clarence McKinney, Texas Southern, number 7. And to round out 12 through 6, T.C. Taylor, Jackson State, number 6. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll go 5 through 1, and then we'll continue the conversation. All right? So let's get ready to take a break. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back talking top SWAC coaches of the 2023 football season. All right? All right, we're getting it back, rocking and rolling. The Jaguar Journal, 8:35 a.m. Good morning to everybody out there, to the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel. Of course, I know you guys go back and forth in the chat. Good morning, everybody. Listen on 107.3 FM here in Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas and everywhere else that you're paying attention to the Jaguar Journal. Let's jump right back into it of this list by HBCU Sports, talking about the top coaches coming into the 2023 seasons. I've done 12 through 6. I'll go back through it again. Number 12, Alonzo Hampton, Pine Bluff. Number 11, Kendrick Wade, Mississippi Valley State. Number 10, Raymond Woody of Bethune-Cookman. Number 9, Hugh Jackson of Grambling State. Number 8, Eddie Robinson Jr., Alabama State. Number 7, Clarence McKinney, Texas Southern. And number 6, T.C. Taylor at Jackson State. Let's jump right back into it. Number 5, and now this is not my list, people. I'm just giving you the article. You guys can go back and do your own list. You can have this conversation amongst yourself. But I just thought it was interesting with this list as I looked at this, that of the rankings that they have everything in there. So we jump back into it. Number 5, Connell Maynor of Alabama A&M. He's taking the Bulldogs to a SWAC championship during that spring 2021 season, which they beat Pine Bluff. But Maynor has not really had success since then. Of course, he's in the shadows of Jackson State, now FAMU joining the SWAC, and he's been having a hard time over there in that SWAC East. And before them, he was having a hard time with Coach Fred McNair in Alcorn State. So Coach Connell Maynor has had an uphill battle since he's been there at Alabama A&M, but he was able to get a SWAC championship in that abbreviated spring 2021 season. That's probably the highlight of his career so far there. He's pulled in 12 FBS transfers this year, and he's going to have we'll see what the Bulldogs are made out of this year. They had some struggles at the quarterback position last year. You start to see a team figure it out. Defensive-wise, they were a lot better, of course, before the end, Alabama A&M will go through a shootout with you. You could put up 40 points on them, but they'll score 40 points back with you when they had a Quill Glass. So it was interesting. But you come into this season, Connell Maynor, number 5, Alabama A&M. Let's go to number 4. This is interesting. Coach Bubba McDowell at Prairie View, PV-A&M. After 10 years serving as an assistant at Prairie View under former head coach Eric Dooley, Bubba McDowell got his shot last year as his first time being able to be a head coach. The Panthers finished 6-5 overall and fell short of a SWAC Western Division title as they went on the road and just got beat up on by Mississippi Valley up in Itta Bena, Mississippi. Of course, Texas Southern fumbled it away with Coach Clarence McKinney and Andrew Body. Then it opened up the door. Prairie View had it right there in front of them. They fumbled it away, and that's how Southern got into the SWAC championship. Both Texas Southern and Prairie View fell short. But you look at Coach Bubba McDowell up at Prairie View, went 6-5 in his first year. The former NFL safety would look to get Prairie View on the right track. Of course, I told you they got that running back from Mississippi Valley, Caleb Johnson, to add to their depth, and so he'll be a good addition to that team. We'll see. Conley, not the greatest quarterback at Prairie View, but we'll see what he's able to do as Coach McDowell is looking to lead the Panthers to their first SWAC championship since 2009. He's at the number 4 spot. Let's go number 3. This is where I think we start to get – it's been a little disrespectful up until this point, but I'm going to keep going. We'll talk about the disrespect after. Number 3 on this list from HBCU Sports of the top coaches coming into the 2023 season, Fred McNair of Alcorn State. Of course, Fred McNair took over in 2015 of Alcorn State. And he has had success. He led the team to 4 straight SWAC Eastern Division titles and 2 straight conference titles from 2018 to 19, of course, beating on my Southern Jaguars, but it's okay. I've moved past that, all right? Since transitioning to the SWAC West, the Braves have not been able to replicate that success. They've, of course, combined record of 11-11 in the past 2 seasons. The Braves are still competitive in the division. I think they'll be a team to look out for this year in 2023, but that's Fred McNair of Alcorn State. Number 2, Southern's own Coach Eric Dooley coming to Southern after leading Prairie View to a SWAC championship appearance. And now at Southern, he took Prairie View in 2021. And now at Southern, took Southern to 2022. And Coach Eric Dooley, as they say, made an immediate impact into the Jaguars, winning the SWAC Western Division title. As they like to say, we backdoored our way into it. But, that's neither here nor there. But Coach Dooley, 2 straight division titles, 1 at Prairie View, 1 at Southern. And he was on the coaching staff here at Southern, had been on the coaching staff starting in 97 and has success here. He's won 2 SWAC championships as an assistant with Southern and won a SWAC championship at UAPB in Grambling as a coordinator. So Now Dooley has posted a record of 27-22 overall and 21-11 since being a head coach in 2018. So he's at the number 2 spot. And, of course, at the number 1 spot is only one coach left. Willie Simmons of Florida A&M, a former Prairie View A&M head coach as well. Remember, he bolted out of Prairie View to go take over Florida A&M back in 2015. And, he transitioned in 2018, took over Prairie View in 2015, and took over Florida A&M in 2018. And in that time, he's posted a 33-12 record and led the Rattlers to the FCS playoffs in 2021. But one thing he has not been able to get his hands on, and that is a conference title. Remember, right before COVID, they were ineligible to go to the Celebration Bowl. They had won a share of the MEAC championship, beating A&T that year. A&T ultimately went on to the Celebration Bowl playing Alcorn and beat Alcorn pretty badly, right? But FAMU then crowned themselves the Black College National Champions, all right? Self-gratification, right? But Willie Simmons has had success since then. They transitioned into the SWAC in 2021, and they've only lost 2 games in the SWAC since they've been in the past 2 years. And you know who it's been to? Only one team, that is Jackson State. So Coach Willie Simmons, the leader of the FAMU Rattlers, and they are a heavy favorite, you have to say, coming into the 2023 season. So number 6, let's go back through it. T.C. Taylor of Jackson State. Number 5, Cornell Maynard, Alabama A&M. Number 4, Bubba McDowell, Prairie View. Number 3, Fred McNair, Alcorn State. Number 2, Eric Dooley at Southern. And number 1, Willie Simmons of Florida A&M. You guys tell me what you think. I'm pretty sure I'm going to look into the chat. You're going back and forth about it. You can call in 225-499-1073. Tell me what you think in terms of this list. I would say, when I look at this list, and I know it's talking about recent success, Willie Simmons, I'm okay with Willie Simmons being right there. I like the success that Florida A&M has had over the past few seasons in the SWAC, especially in the SWAC, and the way that they left the MEAC. Never did really get to do a goodbye tour of the MEAC, but I like what Willie Simmons has done at Florida A&M. I think when you look at Eric Dooley and Fred McNair, it's a toss-up right there. Coach Dooley beat Fred McNair for the first time. We got someone on the call line. Coach Eric Dooley beat Fred McNair for the first time this year. And, hey, Grant, we got somebody on the line right there. And it's a toss-up. I'm not really sure right there. Bubba McDowell, I thought, and Cornell Maynard to be where they are. Got somebody on there? All right, let's go to the phone lines. Good morning.
What's up, Barry?
Oh, good morning. We got Scotty. What's up, Scotty?
Man, nothing chilling, man. What's goody?
Not much, man. Well, talk to me. I'll talk back.
Yeah. I like that. Hey, I don't care what Willie Simmons' record is. With no championship, you can't be number 1. Because in everything that we do in sports, it is usually cemented by a championship. No matter how much success you have, no matter how much winning you do, right? Charles Barkley's, whatever NBA, NFL player, Matthew Stafford wasn't looked at right until he won a championship, right? So you can't put Willie Simmons above Frank McNair. That's just me personally. I just think Frank McNair has to be the standard when it comes to SWAC coaching, no matter the down season he's had for these last couple of years, but still always in the mix. He still has won the SWAC East 6 times. You know, G doesn't let us forget that. And
he got 4 of them. The other 2 wasn't his.
Well, Zoo, he part of you. If you count Dooley,
okay.
if you count Dooley, it's tough to say.
Let me ask you this. Give me your top 5, starting 5 all the way to number 1, aside from this list, which is not mine. Let me put that out there to the people that's listening. This is HBCUsports.com, and the author of this is Jared Hoffman, who asks who are the top coaches in the SWAC going into the 2023 season. But for you, Scotty, Scotty also has a show called Off Script. You can check it out on YouTube if you have not already heard about it. Please check it out. It's a really good show, call-in show as well, pretty much like this. But Scotty, give me your top 5 of what you think top SWAC coaches coming into the 2023 season.
Number 5, this one really hurts me, but I'm going to have to do it. I'm going to have to go Eddie Robinson Jr. And the reason is because for a first-year head coach, and they hadn't had a winning program since 2015, and he comes in and goes 6-5, wins the SWAC and MEAC Challenge, wins the MAC City Classic. I mean, what else could you ask from an Alabama State a fan Those are your two biggest games of the year. He won them.
Mm-hmm.
You hadn't beat A&M in 4 years. So, got to go with Eddie Robb 5.
And he had some tough games, and he played Jackson State and FAMU really good. You're talking about
really good
late game against FAMU, which got away from them. And if they could have found just a little bit mussed up, a little bit more offense against Jackson State, talking about a totally different ball game.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to. You got to, like, I know, like, a lot of people like, on Alabama State, but you got to
like, on Alabama State, too.
You know? But you got to give him credit. And listen, he got major kudos for me with the he ain't SWAC. Because everybody else was scared of Deion at that point, if I'm being honest. You were either Deion's friend or you were just scared of him. And I love the fact that Eddie Robb stepped up and was like, hey, man, we ain't doing none of that buddy-buddy stuff, all that stuff he was talking about in the media. So I love that. Absolutely.
I'm putting some respect on his name because with the player.
It wasn't disrespect. It was legit, like, facts. The Bama didn't coach. He hadn't coached football in no level. He hadn't coached. Mm-hmm. He was a real estate agent before he got to Alabama State. So I'm gonna call you a real estate agent and then he started winning, and then he did the thing with Deion. I was like, okay, I'm gonna call him by his name, Coach Eddie Robb. So win 6-5. I mean. Now, I will say this is the year that you're going to see a change because a lot of those players that he did not recruit are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Ja'Cory Merritt, the safety's gone. You got Bubba, you got Adrian Maddox. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what he does with it. He brought in Demetrius Davis. He let Miles Crawley walk out the door. I'm always going to be on that bandwagon and say, why did you do that? But so we're going to see what it looks like with his players because this is, there's some turnover. He has to fill those holes, so we'll see what it looks like because, let's be real, a lot of those players weren't even here. So number 5 would be Eddie Robb. Number 4, I really don't want to put this dude here because I really don't think he does anything, is Bubba McDowell. Like, I really don't want to put him there, but...
Well, you putting him there.
I know. I really don't want to, but, I got to deal with the facts of it is that he did have a very successful first year. He was a part of that Dooley year when they went to the SWAC championship, and he kept it rolling. And that's really all you're asking for when you lose a guy like Dooley and you feel like you still have a capable team. You want to keep it rolling. Now, he did lose the Valley his last game of the year, and it is what it is, but you gotta take I don't think they do anything special. That's why I don't like Dooley. That's why I don't like Bubba McDowell. Like, nothing they do is special. They run a simple base-style offense. They run the ball 30 times a game. It's really nothing special, and they win. I'm like, this is so boring. Like, this is boring football to me. So that's why I really don't like what they do. But I got to give them his credit where credit is due. Number 3, I'll go with Dooley. Not because I want to. Because I believe Dooley be Dooleying. You know what I'm saying? I do believe you backdoored your way into a championship.
It take one of my callers, Chris, to call in and tell he's still looking for an apology from Coach Eric Dooley right now. He want a Christmas card, a birthday card, a Juneteenth card, something. He want a card to say I'm sorry on there. Okay.
Listen, he needs to be apologizing to all Jaguar Nation because of the simple fact of the matter is. His pride almost was your downfall in that season. If we're being completely honest, his pride of not wanting to swap out quarterbacks would have been his downfall. And I say this, that SWAC championship, if Bubba does not come in, you guys would have probably had the worst SWAC championship game ever played. You would have got beat 40-something to probably 3 or 7 if you would have kept Bubba. If you would have kept Bashawn McCray in the whole game.
I would have never been able to live that down with Jackson.
Never. Boombox Classic and you get destroyed in the SWAC championship, oh, my God, they would never let you forget that. They still be talking about 2011 and all that type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? They'll never let y'all forget that stuff down. So, so I got to put Dooley there at number 3. And I'll say this. A lot of people give him credit for that team. I do not. Because I knew that team was talented back when Rollins was there. It was a very talented team. I talked to you. I talked to BJ. I talked to a lot of Southern people. You guys had talent. Now, adding Dumas wasn't really that big of a deal. Why? Because he didn't play that much. You had a great running back room. We all know that. You had a great offensive line. We all knew that. Adding Trey Lane did not help you because he couldn't stop the run, right? So Corian Harris, the addition, absolutely amazing. But a lot of that stuff you guys already had on the roster. and you just needed somebody to put in the right pieces. So I'll give Dooley that, but I won't give him credit for the talent that was already on the team because it was already there.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Willie Simmons. Like, listen, man, the only person he has lost to in the last 2 years is Jackson State. Like, that's crazy. Like, if you're a FAMU alum, like, you're looking at this year like you should be licking your chops like, oh, yeah, we going all the way. Because you have 85% of your team coming back. The 15% went to the Rams, okay? Xavier Smith, let's be real, right? He went to the Rams. So now you got a new running back from Nebraska. You got you brought your D lineman with the sack leader. You lost Isaiah Land. I wasn't a fan of Isaiah Land's game, but that's neither here nor there. You got Isaiah Major. You got Kendall Bowler. You have a lot of pieces to this puzzle that it seemingly can come back and run the table, and you should be in the SWAC championship. And the success that you've had for the past 2 years should show you that this is your time. If it's either now or never for Willie Simmons. If you can't get it done now, if you can't even win the OBC now, I don't even know what to tell you. So Willie Simmons number 2, and then Fred McNair number 1. I mean, you got to give it to for the past 4 years, 5 years, he's like the godfather of this thing, man. Like, it just doesn't, like, you could give Fred McNair like slop and he'll make it into a 5-course meal. Like, that's what it feels like every year. Because you're like, last year I was just like, there's no way. You lose Felix, right? You bring in a kid from Louisiana Tech. You know what I'm saying? You got Jarvion Howard, which pretty much was your offense last year. Wide receivers, no-name guys. C.J. Bowler was hurt most of the year. Your defense comes alive. The D-line was just nasty. But you're just like, how does he keep doing it? And I got to respect that because it's in Alcorn. It's in Lorman, Mississippi. Who wants to go there? I've been there.
Not me.
Much. It's not much there. So, overall, man, like I think you just have to put respect on Fred McNair for his consistency. And his consistency of getting to the big game and winning that big game, not the Celebration Bowl, of course, but, winning the big game in the SWAC championship. But
let's look at it like this, though. Let's look at it like this. It's not overall who's the best at this point. It is what you have headed into the 2023 season. And so for me, headed into the 2023 season, it's not the best who's the best that's left. It's what we got going into the season. And I think that's why, for me, number 1 would have to be, because it's like what you said, licking your chops has to be Willie Simmons sitting there saying the door is open. It's wide open for me. And if it's wide open, I can run through it. If Jackson State's been the only thing stopping me, I will put Willie Simmons there. Now, Fred McNair, his past success has been good, which I will always give him credit and accolades because I love what he's able to do. And when you talk about most consistent with quarterbacks in this conference, Alcorn State has been doing it. And it showed in this conference, the team with the better quarterback typically goes off to win the championship. And we've seen that in the past when you saw the years of Alcorn and Grambling going back and forth winning championships. Now you saw it with Jackson State. And you've seen it with FAMU with Jeremy Musa coming back, who you have to put right there. They have the better quarterbacks. They typically win the championships. FAMU is in a position. Now, right behind FAMU, I don't know. I would probably, going into this season, right behind Willie Simmons at number 1, I would have to probably throw Eric Dooley in at that 2 spot. Now, the problem is we don't know about the quarterback, but we got everything else around us. And then you saw last year, if you keep saying Southern backdoor this way into a SWAC West Division title in the SWAC championship, we did it without a quarterback.
Okay, let me say this. Because now the way you making it seem is the way you put it.
I'm putting it simple.
No, the way you put it, not using past success and just going off the year, my top 5 is completely changed, right? Because then number 1, it will be Willie. Number 2 will be Texas Southern. Number 3 will be Grambling. Number 4 will be Prairie View, and then number 5 would be Southern. I might, yeah, I would have to go with Southern because I really couldn't go. But yeah, I would go 1. My number 2 would be Texas Southern. I mean, think about that. Andrew Body has beat everybody on that list but PV.
Yeah, and when he got out that game against Alabama A&M, that literally it was like who else plays on the team.
Yeah,
That's my point. Why I would not put them at the 2 spot. Once he was out the game, it was over with.
What quarter? Dude, most teams are like that. Okay? Your team was the opposite.
Something made it without a quarterback. It was our
your
defense.
team was the opposite. Your team got better when your starting guy went down. You don't understand it because your team was better.
What'd you say? We got better without our starting quarterback?
You move differently.
You don't think you didn't even put the corner in your top 5.
Why should I? I don't know what quarterback they got. Listen. I'm going based off quarterback play. Just like you said, quarterback play runs the SWAC, right? You got Connolly, who's returning with a Caleb Johnson and running attack, and him being a run first quarterback as well. So I got to give him credit. They won. I got to go with Grambling because I love Miles Crawley. I think he's an X factor for them.
Got about Andrew 1 minute.
Andrew Body is Andrew Body. That's enough said. He smoked Jaws. So that's what we talking about.
How you like to say his name?
Andrew Body. You know what I'm saying? So, and then you got Willie Simmons, who has his returning guys. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that changes up. When you said 2023 specifically, yeah, that changes up everything for me.
I'll tell you why I like this list, because it makes great barbershop talk. This list right here was set a barbershop with everybody yelling about it, and that's why I love it, because it's just about, we got to sit back and watch it unfold. But this is why I love this list, because everybody's going to have their favorite. Everybody's that top 5, or it'll rotate and change, and just like what I did, it'll change the narrative real quick. Well, who's the best coach? No, well, who's the top coach going into the season? No, well, who has the best quarterbacks? That's why I love this off script.
Got to, man. Got to, man. But I appreciate the time, P. Keep doing your thing, man.
Hey, man, thank you for coming on this morning. Thank you.
Always.
All right. That's my man Scotty with Off Script on YouTube. Check out his channel. Of course, we've reached the end of our time. I love the conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. Thank Carlton Jones coming on, who's the Southern University National President of the Alumni Federation. They have the Leadership Summit coming up June the 22nd through the 24th. Thank my man Grant on the board today, holding it down for Mike, who's out. Grant, I appreciate you, man. And thank everybody that's listening on the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel. If you haven't already, go subscribe to the Jaguar Journal YouTube channel. And I thank everybody that's listening out there on the radio waves on 107.3 FM here in the Baton Rouge area. And anybody that's out there paying attention, I appreciate you and love you a lot. And like my man Reggie Flood says, as always, we'll be back next week at the same time, same place, because as always, it's the Jaguar Journal.